What? Okay. Am I recording? Okay, good. Alright. Hello, everyone. This is Kira's show here, and I'm on my lunch break right now. Now, I'm going to be trying to record as much of this as I possibly can, but if there are random jump cuts, just know I have been having trouble with recording. Now, when we last left off, Deku had faced off against the Ten Commandments, the Axon Vanguard, a whole lot of copies of Muscular, and All for One, along with All Might and Bakugo. And if I remember correctly, Kendo was injured with third-degree burns, and Merlin had arrived on the battlefield along with Recovery Girl approaching behind. She was already on the battlefield, but Recovery Girl was on her way. Now, Deku had passed out. Let us go to Deku. Deku would wake up in a hospital, and he's in a hospital bed. As soon as he wakes up, he realizes that he's somewhat okay, but Bakugo was able to fix that damage he had earlier on the battlefield, so aside from that, he was perfectly fine. Except for maybe a few cuts, a few bruises, and the fact that he overexerted himself and ran out of stamina. Now, Deku, he would wake up and he would actually try and figure out what was happening. Now, he would be told by the hospital staff that after what happened at the camp, they had to bring him to the hospital. But he hasn't even had the worst of it. As Deku would walk in, and he would see Kendo in the hospital bed. He's asking what happened to her, and they would explain that after getting third-degree burns to at least half of her body, if not most of it, Bakugo used his restoration quirk to essentially help repair her and help her heal, but Merlin had already started working on essentially helping her body adapt to help her try and heal faster. But due to that, the stress on her body has been a bit too much, so she will be like this for a few days. Now, during this time, Deku would actually hear from a lot of people about how Kendo, she actually jumped in wherever she could and actually tried saving people. Now, whenever Dabi actually tried attacking Mr. Aizawa, she would have actually tried jumping in to help him. She was able to put her hands up as a shield and enlarge them, but that burned her hands. She was able to take down Dabi, but not before some severe burns. She was also able to take down a mustard gas villain, and I want to say a weaker Nomu, but I don't know how strong those things are actually. Now, during this time, Deku would stay by her side, actually waiting for her to wake up. And whenever she finally does, Deku is sitting there, just waiting. He would ask her if she's finally awake, and she would say yes. And Deku would say that it's a good thing that Bakugo was there, along with Merlin. If not, they would have had some real problems, along with All Might being there. She would have asked what happened, and Deku would say they discovered a new villain. One that is the greatest evil imaginable. He calls himself All for One. He has the ability to take quirks. This would actually surprise Kendo, as she'd ask what happened. Deku would explain that, well, he had to fight off an army. All Might had to fight this villain along with Bakugo, and basically the Action Vanguard squad got taken down. Now, after this, Deku would tell her that they need to get ready because the final exams are going to be coming up. Kendo's asking why they need to train. She just woke up. Deku would say that even you always need to be training. You can't just rely on luck all the time. Which he would say, what about your quirk? You got it by random chance. Which Deku wouldn't say anything about. And she would actually question Deku about what his parents' quirks are. Because from what she's heard, she knows about Deku's mom's quirk, which is fire manipulation, but what about his dad? As soon as she actually said this, she would have seen Deku actually start squeezing his fist into balls, and he would just tell her that she doesn't need to worry about that. He's been away for a very long time, and he doesn't plan on seeing him ever again. Now, she would have actually noticed that Deku is actually somewhat getting angry at this, which she would immediately just dismiss, saying that, alright, well, at least let's go do warm-ups. As they would actually go out to another gym. Now, after going out to a gym, this is whenever Kendo and Deku, he would tell her to use her quirk to try and get a max rep. As soon as she tries to use her quirk, she realizes that she's actually growing in size. Now, she would actually grow around one size larger, basically around where Deku's actual height is, which would actually surprise Deku. He would tell her that she better stop because her clothing doesn't stretch. It's not made to. Now, after this, Deku and her, they would actually have to go to UA and actually talk to Merlin. They would get there. Merlin would be surprised, saying that she woke up sooner than expected. And Deku would have to ask her what exactly happened to Kendo. Now, after Deku asked this question, Merlin would explain that she had to modify things in Kendo, essentially like not rewrite her DNA, but just move certain sequences of DNA around. Basically, she'll have increased speed, increased strength. The fact is, her quirk is now actually not big hands, it's just giant, like Mount Lady's. In fact, she could probably grow to around the size of Deku, if she wanted to, if not around Mount Lady's actual size. Now, during the next 2 weeks, Deku and Kendo would actually be training. She's learning how to use this new quirk, or basically a new quirk, as... I should not go down easy. As this is going on, Deku, he is actually really surprised and intrigued by Kendo, because now she's essentially got an upgrade. Now then, him and Kendo would actually be fighting, and Deku's actually not using his quirk. But she's actually able to match him in physical strength, which really impresses Deku as him and her are in a struggle, and right before they break away, they're talking about who's going to win. Now, if you guys don't know Kendo's character, she's actually a tomboy, which she's the only tomboy in My Hero Academia, which is cool because they literally don't they literally just oh hey, this person's this person's nerdy, this person's geeky, this person's silly. Mineta, yeah. Anyways, it's really cool because it's actually a high school thing. Now, Deku, him and her would actually be doing that, and she would say that she'll beat him. He's asking her how, as she would actually lean in and kiss him, which kind of catches Deku off guard, as she would actually buckle his leg, making him actually fall onto the ground. She begins laughing, saying that it seems like even then, he still has a couple openings. Deku would just say that that's pretty good, but she forgot one thing. She would ask what it is, as Deku would immediately just slam his hand on the ground, as she would fall over. Things don't play fair. Now, this is essentially them becoming an actual couple. Now, the final exams. For this is going to be Bakugo and Deku versus All Might and Aizawa. Now, if you guys are wondering why I'm actually doing two teachers, Aizawa's quirk against Deku is basically Deku could be powerless. Now, along with that, you also have Mount Lady, and I want to do a 3v3, but I don't want to do that actually. I was gonna do Mount Lady, All Might, Mr. Aizawa versus Deku, Kendo, and Bakugo, but that's literally a one-sided battle since two people have the same quirk. Now, Deku and Bakugo, they would immediately begin as Deku actually buffs up into around... Well, actually, Deku still has his armor on. So he would actually start flying through the air. Now, he's actually at a small, or as small as his form can be. So basically, he can just start flowing it through his body, kind of like full cowling, but without enlarging, helping him actually fly better. Because the smaller he is, the more flexibility and agility he has. Now, he's actually flying around, if not hovering off the ground, doing all that, and anytime he stops producing the fire and actually touches the ground, he realizes that Mr. Aizawa is nearby. It's cold. Anyways, now after this, Deku is actually thinking of a way to fight Mr. Aizawa. He's thinking that he can go straight for Aizawa or All Might, but either one of those would not be a good option, as Bakugo would come in actually kicking Mr. Aizawa. But before he can actually land the blow successfully, All Might would have actually grabbed Bakugo's leg, yanking him towards him, grabbing him by the face, smashing him into the ground. Now, after that happened, this is whenever things are starting to get amped up. All Might is actually trying to wrap Deku up in the Black Whip, and also try and fight him. But Bakugo and Deku, well, let's do this. Bakugo and Mr. Aizawa are actually fighting. Aizawa's canceling out his quirk, and anytime he needs to blink, Bakugo keeps trying to use Black Whip to wrap him around, or at least capture him. But as he's doing that, Aizawa is just moving around, jumping around, doing all that. He would have wrapped Bakugo's leg up and actually got him hoisted up over a telephone pole. But as soon as Aizawa went to blink, Bakugo would have immediately just cut the cord with Black Whip and try and do a full explosion burst at Mr. Aizawa, where he essentially lets off one of his gauntlets behind him and just flies into Mr. Aizawa with a kick. While that's going on, All Might is actually at 100% again, making him at 120% of Canon All Might's power. Now, because of this, Bakugo's actual increase is actually 140% of All Might's power. So basically a fifth jump in power. You get 20 times stronger, if not 20% stronger than the previous user. Why is everyone street racing? Now, after this happens... okay, yeah. After this happens, Deku and Bakugo... Deku would actually have to let Rita actually get off his back. Now, as soon as he takes Rita off his back and places it on the ground, he's immediately able to blitz All Might in speed. Because Rita weighs almost 2 tons, and it's a one-handed weapon. Which just makes it even better. It's beautiful. Now, after this, Deku and All Might are actually fighting. All Might's back up at 100% after being healed and training a bit more. If my voice sounds shaky, it is very cold and my glass is fogging up in my car. Anyways, ow. All Might would then actually power up to 1,000,000%. And I don't know how long he can hold 1,000,000% for, but the fact that he doesn't break bones and he's actually able to use it, let's say he can use 1,000,000% for about an hour, but if he does anything past that, he might actually hurt One for All, because it is a sentient quirk. Now, Bakugo would have Deku would have eventually been able to help Bakugo take down Aizawa, but as soon as that would have happened, All Might would have immediately blitzed Deku, actually punching him in the chest, somewhat cracking his armor. Now, as soon as that happens, Deku would have immediately grabbed All Might and actually just punched him in the face. As these two would begin flying through the buildings, crushing and destroying everything, Deku actually just powers up, and he would immediately just grab All Might. He would grab onto All Might, full Nelson him, and just blast it up as high as he can into the sky. As soon as he does this, he actually throws All Might into the air with a punch, sending him about 1,000 feet up into the air, even further. As he goes up, up, and up, this is whenever these two are essentially above the clouds, and a passenger jet would fly by. If you guys don't know, passengers jets fly by at about 40 miles into the air. Or, what is it? About 40,000 feet, not 40,000 miles, that's space. I'm sorry, I cannot feel my fingertips. Anyways, that is about, that's over 8 miles up into the air. Anyways, after that happens, Deku would have actually punched All Might into the ground, and everyone would just hear the earth-shattering boom of All Might falling. Now, as soon as that happens, Deku would immediately just come down with the cruel sun, blowing away most of the area. Now, after this happens, All Might, he's bleeding and he's actually got one of his arms messed up. If not, he probably broke it. Now, All Might is looking at Deku and he actually has blood in his face, and he can barely see. He's asking Deku what drives him. Deku would just tell All Might, after what happened to Kendo, after what happened at the camp, I realized I'm not in... After what happened at the camp, I realized something, All Might. I am not perfect. I am not invincible. But I might be the closest to it. I am the one who will decide this. I have pride. The pride of a lion, in fact. That anyone who stands in my way or goes against me, if I need to, I will be willing to kill. Now, this is the sin I carry, All Might. Not a sin of lust, not a sin of greed, not a sin of envy, but of pride. Because where others fail, I always do better. Speaking of which, as Deku would immediately just begin burning bright with power, as a lion tattoo would just form on his back, revealing this symbol. As everyone is curious as to what Deku just did. Now, as soon as he did this, he would have actually blitzed All Might, punching him in the face, breaking his jaw, and sending him flying through the buildings, as he would just begin walking to the exit with Bakugo. Now, as soon as these two get out, these two would look at each other, and Deku would be somewhat disappointed. Bakugo, why didn't you use 1,000,000% again? That nearly killed me last time, Midoriya. Oh, no more Deku. How can I say Deku? You can do anything or you're useless. I do not care. How do you make anything useless, Bakugo? I would challenge you to a game of wits, but it appears you are disarmed. Now, after this, let us go into the Big 3 fight and the events of the provisional license exam. Okay, I have time. I have, enough time. Now, the Big 3 fight, Mirio, he would actually be somewhat hesitant to power. He would be somewhat hesitant to actually fight with Deku, but Deku would have actually just given him a taste of his power by just using Rita. He would have told Mirio that this is his favorite thing. Is that a fire? No, that's a light. Sorry, guys. I'm pretty sure that's a light. Anyways. Yeah, I'm in a parking lot right now. Across from me is a dirt field. I'm pretty sure it might... There's no smoke. Anyways. Now. As soon as the Big Three fight starts, Deku would have immediately told Mirio, hey, hold on to this. And as soon as it passes through Mirio, Mirio would actually feel some kind of burning. Now, I want to say he can probably still feel, like, heat. Because I think... No, he can pass through air molecules, that's correct. He wouldn't feel anything, but Deku would have immediately blanket the area in fire. Now, when this happens, Deku immediately just begins throwing himself in circles. Now, as soon as he does this, he creates his own tornado. And what he does afterwards literally engulfs everyone in 1A. He begins turning up the heat and burning the area around him, as he calls this special move, Fiery Inferno. As he would actually take out Tamaki of the Big Three and Nejiro of the Big Three. I believe her name is Nejiro. And Mirio would be the last one standing, but he is barely doing so. As Deku would just tell Mirio that he lost this fight as soon as he stepped foot in his arena. Now, apologize. Apologize for what? I didn't do anything to you. Exactly. You exist in the same time as me. You think you'll be the number one when I will. As Deku would immediately just throw his hand through the air, and Mirio would be slapped in the face, along with have a couple ribs broken by just air jabs. Essentially shockwaves of air Deku just fired at him. That is a fire truck in the distance. Anyways. The provisional license would actually go similar to canon, but people would not want to challenge Deku after what they heard. Even rumors are powerful. Even after seeing this guy, would you really want to fight him? Calm down, Batman. Anyways. Now then. The license exam would go similar, but Deku and Kendo. Kendo is walking around, and she actually has Deku in her hand. And as soon as people would actually try to attack her, because she's essentially the biggest target, she would immediately just open her hand, revealing Deku, and Deku would just slap everything back at everyone. In fact, he would create cruel suns, and he would call this special move Turret, where he essentially fires cruel suns the size of marbles at every single person around him. Now, after doing this, the rescue portion would begin. The rescue portion, people are actually very intimidated because Deku's essentially a man who can grow to the size of a mountain of muscle, as he would literally pick up a building with one hand, helping the survivors get out, and he would pass. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and thank you for sticking around this long. And if those of you who are curious and have watched it this far, my 600 subscriber special will be What If Deku Had Aries' Quirk? Now, I actually drew that as soon as I hit 600, and that's why I was very surprised. Someone also guessed it in my Discord. Anyway, guys, oh crap. I hope you enjoyed the video and have an amazing day. I have to get back to work. It's cold.